My dad called me a burden and kicked me out at 17 to make room for my stepsister. When I got back on my feet, Dad came to ask money for her education. I laughed and said, I was 13 when my dad first called me a burden. Not during some huge fight either, just casually, like he'd thought it for years. I'd asked if I could go on a school baseball trip. It cost $180. Dad was sitting at the kitchen table surrounded by unpaid bills while my stepmother, Rachel, stood at the stove pretending not to hear us. He rubbed his forehead and laughed under his breath. Kid, you're like carrying a second mortgage. I still remember standing there holding the permission slip while Chloe, my stepsister, sat on the couch scrolling through her phone. A week later, Dad bought her a brand new MacBook for school. That was how things worked after he remarried. Everything for Chloe was an investment. Everything for me was a problem. My mom died when I was 9, and after that it felt like Dad spent years trying to replace his old life with a new one. I just didn't fit into it anymore. By 16, I worked evenings at a grocery store. I bought my own clothes, paid my own phone bill, even helped with school fees sometimes because asking Dad for money always turned into a lecture about responsibility. Meanwhile, Chloe got dance lessons, a car at 16, and a college fund Rachel loved mentioning at dinner. You're lucky your sister actually takes school seriously, Dad told me once. I had a 3.7 gigapascals. Didn't matter. 3 weeks after my 17th birthday, I came home from work around midnight and saw my mattress outside by the garage. At first, I thought someone was moving furniture. Then I walked inside. My bedroom walls were pink. Chloe stood in the middle of the room while movers carried in her vanity mirror. What the hell is this? I asked. Love, she shrugged. Dad said I could have the bigger room. I went downstairs so fast I nearly slipped. Dad sat in his recliner watching TV like nothing was wrong. You moved my stuff? And he muted the television without looking at me. You're almost 18. I'm 17. Close enough. Rachel suddenly became very focused on wiping the kitchen counter. Then Dad finally looked at me. We need the space more than we need another burden around here. The whole house went quiet. Even Chloe stopped talking upstairs. I remember laughing once because it sounded too insane to be real. You're kicking me out? You can stay with friends. Figure something out. Might help you grow up. I stuffed my clothes into garbage bags while Chloe avoided eye contact every time she walked past me. Dad didn't help, didn't apologize. By 2 a.m., I was sitting outside my friend Marcus's apartment with 2 trash bags and $340 in my checking account. Dad never called. Not once. The next few years were rough. I worked construction during the day and stocked shelves overnight, slept on couches, ate terrible food, took community college classes when I could afford them. Dad occasionally texted things like, hope you're doing okay. Never offered help though. Eventually, life turned around. At 24, I got into commercial roofing sales. A few years later, I started my own company with 2 guys I trusted. We landed several big contracts during a housing boom, and suddenly money stopped being a constant fear. I bought a house, paid off my truck, built a quiet life. Then one Saturday afternoon, my doorbell rang. It was Dad. Older, nervous, thinner than I remembered. Hey son, I kept the screen door closed. What do you need? His eyes drifted toward my driveway. You've done pretty well for yourself. There it was. We sat at my kitchen table while he complimented the house for a few awkward minutes before finally getting to the point. Chloe got accepted into NYU. I nodded. Tuition's expensive. Rachel had lost her job during COVID. Chloe already had student loans. Dad had borrowed against the house. Then he slid a folder across the table. Tuition breakdowns. Loan paperwork. $68,000. We were hoping maybe you could help family, he said quietly. Family. I flipped through the papers and suddenly pictured my mattress sitting outside in the rain. Dad leaned forward. She's really trying to build a future. I laughed. Just one short laugh. Dad's expression tightened immediately. I'm serious. I know. You have the money. Clet. I leaned back in my chair and looked at him for a long moment. Then I said, sounds expensive. Dead silence. He recognized the line instantly. Same tone, same words. For the first time in my life, I watched my father look embarrassed instead of angry. He started explaining himself after that, talking about stress and pressure and difficult times. I stood up and walked to the front door. When he reached the porch, he stopped and looked back at me. You'd really let your sister lose this opportunity? I opened the door and said, she can figure something out. Might help her grow up. Then I closed it. He never came back.